What is pretty privilege? Pretty privilege refers to the societal benefits and advantages that people who are deemed attractive usually get. It could be preferences at getting a work opportunity. It could be how they are treated by others. It could be how easy it is for them to make friends, or how dating for them could be perhaps a little more easier. But this is not just one part of it. The dark side of it is also a lot. Social interactions, professional opportunities, and just general treatment by others. The concept is rooted in the halo effect, cognitive bias, where our overall impression of a person, often based on their look, influences how we perceive their character or abilities. Subjectivity of pretty. What is pretty? How do you define pretty? The concept of beauty is highly subjective, and it can vary from culture to culture, person to person, society to society, country to country, from time periods and individual preferences. What one society or era considers beautiful could be very different from what the other perceives beautiful as well. For example, Western standards of beauty from the 1990s often emphasized being thin, white, and extremely feminine. These standards were promoted by media and popular culture, creating a very narrow definition of what it means to be pretty. Over time, the lens through which we look at what we perceive as beautiful has changed, and thankfully so. Today, there is a greater appreciation and also a more diverse and open space for different types of beauty. Diversification of beauty, body types, skin tones, and gender expressions. The social advantages. Active individuals are usually considered to be more competent or more trustworthy. Just because you think they look good, you're like, okay, maybe I could trust him. Maybe she's dressed well. Maybe she's done her hair well. Maybe he has colored his hair, or maybe he's wearing a very nice shirt, or he's wearing a very nice a pair of shoes, right? When we look at people and how we perceive them to be pretty, it could be based on the way they are dressed, it could be in the way that they look, it could be in the way that they've done their hair, it could be in the way, the kind of chain that they've worn, it could be so many different things, right? So when we look at someone and when we find that person or their trait, well, we're not even getting into traits right now, but we will get into that as well. We're just looking at the physical attributes right now. So when we find that physical attribute connected with their styling appealing, we automatically begin to think that they are more trustworthy, they are more competent, they could be really good at their job. Football coach, or you have a tennis coach, our coach because they're good, but also, when they have another attribute of how physically attractive they are, you're like, okay, I'm in good hands. They're going to make me a very good tennis player. Positive attention that you could get, or, maybe if you're on dating apps, perhaps you're flooded with likes, perhaps, when you are in your day-to-day, you're going to get some coffee. When you go to the coffee shop, perhaps sometimes you will probably get some free coffee. Or maybe when you go to a restaurant, someone will look at you, offer you a drink, or invite you a drink. Or when you go out shopping, maybe sometimes you'll get a discount. There are many different ways that pretty privilege can play out. But there's a huge psychological impact that comes with it. A constant positive reinforcement that they get, it can bolster their self-esteem and a sense of self-worth. This confidence can make them more successful and persuasive in their endeavors, which can inculcate a sense of privilege, which can create a self-sustaining privilege. What are the downsides? There are always downsides. Constant attention, the constant ogling, the constant pressure to look a particular kind. Could be an argument that there are no downsides to pretty privilege, because if you look good, then you look good. If you look pretty, you look pretty. It's never a disadvantage to not look pretty. But how do you even define pretty? Pretty is everyone. Pretty is just, as we say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which come to the downsides of the isolation. Not everyone wants to be friends with the pretty person because they perhaps are posing a threat to the other. There is a lot of jealousy, there is a lot of isolation, there is a lot of other things that come along with it. Constant validation that is probably sought from the others could lead to a lot of anxiety, could lead to a lot of insecurities, could lead to a lot of pressure to live up to those expectations. But also, it could create a very false sense of comfort, because what they are living or what they are banking on is just their prettiness. And as you know, as we age, our bodies change, our skin change, our entire selves change. They can also suffer from imposter syndrome. Their success is solely due to their appearance and nothing about their hard work or skills or abilities ever matter. Pretty privilege is not just about looks. It is deeply intertwined with societal power structures and biases. Cultural standards of beauty often reflect and reinforce issues like racism, transphobia, colorism, sexism, fatphobia, ableism, and ageism. For example, Western beauty standards have always preferred or deemed attractive skin tones that are lighter and Eurocentric features, marginalizing people of color who do not fit into their beauty standards. Some time back, there was an article that I was reading. Indian origin American actress Avantika, who was in a fan survey. She was deemed as the favorite person, the favorite actress to play Rapunzel. Now, we all know Rapunzel is a German tale. We've all read it growing up. We've all known the story of how her hair, her hair locks were the most important part of the story. It was never about her eye color. It was never about her hair color. It was never about her features or the skin tone that she had. Rapunzel was always about the hair that she had, the thickness of the hair, how strong her hair was, that it could actually let a man climb through it. As she was deemed as the favorite actress to play Rapunzel for a potential upcoming Disney movie, there was a lot of outrage in the Eurocentric white world. There was a lot of outrage because, people started saying that you are ruining our childhood tales, you are ruining our childhood memories, you are ruining our childhood favorite characters. Rapunzel was German, she had blonde hair, she had blue eyes, she had thick blonde locks. Now, that in itself is a very biased way of beauty, right? That in itself also is racism. That in itself also is colorism. Rapunzel was known for her thick locks. Have you ever seen the beauty of the thickness of the voluminous hair that Indian women have? The hair is like a forest of silk. And if the story was for the character to come and climb through this thick, strong hair, perhaps Avantika could have made the right fit. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What perhaps you think is beautiful, the other person would think perhaps it's not that appealing at all. So there is no one to blame over here. It's just cultural standards, cultural factors, where we've grown up, what we've grown up reading, what we've been told, our upbringing, everything comes into focus when we speak about that. Pretty privilege often has a very pronounced role for women. Society has always put a higher value on female beauty or female appearance in general. You may find that often their looks are prioritized over their qualities, which could be their intelligence, their wisdom, their empathy, their kindness, so many things, their knowledge for one. Objectification is one of the top factors that is always at play, because women get objectified because of their bodies, women get objectified because of how they look, women get objectified in cinema. You look at Indian movies, so many item numbers are, what is an item number? What is an item? Let's get down to the brass tacks. An item is a product, right? If you really go and look at the definition of item is a product. And when in India, you have all these dance numbers, they are called item numbers. So who is an item? The item is the woman. The woman is a product. Literally, that is what we are saying. So all these item numbers that you see in India and all these, almost every dance movie, every movie, Indian movie has it, is because they are looking at woman's body. It's literally objectifying the woman's body. But, you could look at it in two different ways. It could be also very empowering because a woman can choose the way she wants to be represented. From the other side, it could also look like, they have overpowered the acting skills, right? A lot of Indian women have great acting skills. They are amazing actresses, but perhaps most of them would not get the leading roles. The naive, pretty actress in the background with the pretty clothes and nice looking hair, right? That is what we always get to know in the reviews, but her acting prowess is never really highlighted that much. A sidekick, as we say, a supporting little sidekick, or as they like to call it, the love interest of the hero. The world is so influenced by beauty, by perfection, by this pressure for women to look good all the time. And whatever the definition of looking good is by the media, by the society, by the men. Objectification of the female body for the male gaze. For example, so many movies have been made from the lens of the male's eyes, literally, right? The pressure that a lot of women face in today's society there is a lot of cosmetic manipulation that is freely, not freely, well, it costs a lot of money to do that. So of course, women go through first the pressure to look or fit into a certain kind of a beauty standard. Then if they think that they don't fit into that kind of a beauty standard that is set by the society, there is a lot of pressure that they go through, a lot of depression, anxiety, or name it, all the works of the negativity that comes in. And to conform to the beauty standards that the society has set, they have to go through cosmetic manipulation, gain the pretty privilege that is apparently how or as beauty standards, or how a beautiful person is supposed to be. The nose is supposed to be a particular kind. The jawline is supposed to be a particular kind. You know, your forehead, your eyebrows. There's so many things that you read from an actress's perspective, but also from an influencer's perspective. There are so many influencers who openly promote how they've got how they've got these particular lips done, how they've got a lip job, and so on and so forth. Enhancements or alterations to one's appearances. Well, there's nothing wrong in doing that, but also why are we doing that? Because we are all conforming to a particular beauty standard in the society, and if you don't conform to it, then perhaps you don't get the advantages that we spoke about before. A lot of societal pressure, it goes through a lot of self-esteem, and also the sustainability of such changes. Enhancements can lead to societal acceptation or better opportunities, and also perpetuate harmful beauty standards and unrealistic expectations. I will speak from an Indian perspective, as I'm from India. I'm Indian. So growing up in India, and still till today, we've always seen that in India the emphasis had always been on fairness creams, right? A lot of actresses promoted fairness creams. In the media, you would see, while growing up everywhere in the media, you would see ads, or you perhaps still continue to see ads of Fair and Lovely, all these fairness creams, because it's almost like, the ad started with someone who had a darker skin, these creams, and they just became very fair, and now they are beautiful. And before, when they were not fair, people were not looking at them. So growing up in India, there's always been, colorism. Apart from casteism and classism, colorism is another layer that many women had to go through. A lot of women still have to go through that. And well, thankfully now, a lot of actresses have stopped promoting it, but there are still many actresses who still continue to promote these fairness creams. It also impacts in the marriage market. As you know, India is a country that has a huge wedding business market. Everyone loves getting married in India. We have a huge Indian wedding market, and your perspective to get married gets a little dwindled if you don't fit into that kind of a color tone that is deemed beautiful in an Indian's eyes. The kind of impact that this could have on a woman's mental health, self-esteem, confidence, her self-worth is humongous. And it's a pity that it still continues to happen. Popular media, Bollywood or Indian movies are like the gospel for the masses, right? So, and even when you look at many characters that are portrayed in a lot of these movies, they would still take women who are actresses who are fair, and then they would color them dark for them to be able to portray that role. Because for them to look a little someone from a different caste or a class, they have to paint them a little darker. And that is a practice that is just atrocious. It is a pity that there is not much representation of dark-skinned actresses in leading roles. On dating apps, there are so many different bios that you come across, so many different things that men have written, women have written. Recently, there was this video that went viral, where there was the song that went viral on TikTok, but there was this girl who was saying, looking for a guy in finance, 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, finance. So it's catchy, of course, but also what is it saying? It's just reinforcing the beauty standards. He has to be tall, he has to have blue eyes, and obviously he has to be in finance, although I would say he has to be in finance because you have that security. There's nothing wrong in asking for what you want, but also this just highlights that we are. And there was a very funny video that one of some other artist had made, and he was like, it was an illustration where he was just swiping through the women, because everyone is asking for 6'5", finance, blue eyes, 6'5", blue eyes, finance, 6'5". So they're like, well, I don't belong to that group. Am I not going to get any girl? There's nothing wrong in asking for what you want. Dating apps have always been like that, right? When you are on a dating app, what you're looking through are just profiles. You're just looking at, I think dating apps are perhaps the first platforms are, where you don't get to know. Obviously you have a little bit of a bio, you can read about what kind of person they are, but many a times you don't even read the bio, you just look at the picture, you're like, okay, he's cute, okay, he's handsome, okay, he's good looking, okay, this, yes, yes, no, yes, no. So, I've done a video before this, which was on why is it so hard to date nowadays. Please have a look at it. And I've spoken about the details and the horrors of the dating world as well. But yes, so dating apps have also always reinforced, and the first thing that you see is how he looks or how she looks. So again, we are going back to the beauty standards. There's nothing wrong in the privileges. There's nothing wrong. I think everyone should feel beautiful. Everyone is beautiful. And we just need to recognize that within us. We have to somehow inculcate that into our life in different ways, in different forms, and not always, fall for that societal standards of beauty. Because if we fall for that, it would just put us into a quicksand. And, if you are going to be like everyone else, then how will you even stand out? So there are a lot of theories of pretty privilege. Let's start with a few. The halo effect. If someone is attractive, we tend to assume that they're also intelligent, kind, trustworthy, and so on and so forth. Example, imagine you're at a party and the most attractive person tells a joke, but the joke is not funny. Yet everyone laughs way too hard, almost as if the joke was the comedic highlight of the century. And yourself laughing too, because, well, if they're good looking, maybe they're funny too. Social exchange theory. Theory suggests that social interactions are transactions that seek to maximize rewards and minimize costs. Being around attractive people is almost seen like it's a reward because of the positive association society has with beauty. Example, you're at a bar and someone ridiculously good looking waves at you. Wave back, feeling pretty pleased, but until you realize that they were waving at someone behind you. But hey, for that particular moment, you were a part of that attractive person's world. Felt like winning a tiny little lottery. Evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary standpoint, often associated with health, fertility, and good genes. Our brains are hardwired to seek out these traits. We're biased towards attractive individuals. It's that person with that hair or those eyes that are getting all the likes on Instagram. Or a lot of men who tend to look for their partner, they look at a lot of genes, what kind of babies would the woman make. Attractiveness stereotype, that we attribute more positive traits to a person just because they are good looking. Which is bias that we think that what's beautiful is good. Example, you are at a job interview and the interviewer is exceptionally good looking. They spill the coffee all over themselves, but instead of thinking that, oh, how clumsy is this person, you think, oh, how well has he handled it? How gracefully has he handled it? How gracefully has he handled the mess? You think, wow, even their mistakes are elegant. Self-fulfilling prophecy. We suggest that when we expect for something to happen, our behavior aligns in a way that makes it more likely to occur. People might receive more positive reinforcement. An attractive person walks into a room expecting everyone to be friendly and warm to them. People smile and welcome them and talk to them because they're getting such nice, positive, welcoming vibe. My point with this is, as we are coming and moving forward with technology, as we are, moving forward with AI, we have so many applications that can fix a lot of images, a lot of, perhaps you follow an actress on Instagram and, she has all these perfect pictures, but that there is an army of people behind her who are making sure that there are proper contours that have been put on the face and there are proper edits that have happened. You have a lot of influencers who are selling you all kinds of products and promoting a certain kind of beauty, but know that they are also using a lot of filters. So when you are perhaps going out with someone and he is just with you because of your beauty or your genes, then maybe you need to question, is this the person that I really want to be with? Because it is also a very superficial level that is being accepted in the relationship. You are so much more than just how you look, and the objectification of the woman, the kind of segregation and the kind of avoidance and the kind of ignorance of all the other beautiful traits that women possess do say a lot about our society. As individuals, we don't need to pit one against the other and perhaps stand up when this is happening in the face. I'm not saying pretty privilege has its advantages in every area of life, and if you choose to go through any of that, pretty privilege has its advantages in many areas of life, but it also has a lot of downsides that come with it, be it with the constant attention, pressure to stay validated, or the pressure to look a particular kind, and the products that you have to use to look a particular kind, or if you don't fit into that kind of a bracket, then the cosmetic manipulation that you have to get, the money that goes into it, and all of that. When you go out at night, in general, women are never safe. You always have this fear that someone is following you. You have this when you go to a cafe, you just want to sit over there and read your book or work on your little story that you're writing. There will always be someone who's ogling at you, right? And the train, someone who is trying to stare at you, someone who tries to forcefully talk to you. You are not always feeling very secure for most time. Many a times, perhaps you're not truly loved because everyone just wants to have a piece of you, wants to have a piece of the pretty you, and boast about the fact that they've had a piece of the pretty you. Pretty privilege is rooted in a lot of subjective and problematic societal standards. It's essential to recognize the multifaceted layers of attractiveness and beauty. It encompasses not just physical appearance, but also personality, confidence, individuality, intelligence, humor, kindness, empathy, and so much more. By understanding the complexities of pretty privilege, we can then foster an environment, create a more inclusive space, work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable world, where people are valued for their diverse qualities and not just their looks. If you like my video, please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments.